Please join me in prayer. Holy Spirit, as we celebrate Christ found alive when thought to be dead, we give thanks for your presence within us, granting us life, even in those parts of us that we may think of as dead. Amen. This is not the Easter that we imagined. Actually, Jewel reminded me that 2 days ago, as you're watching this, 2 days ago, which would be Good Friday, was my 10-year anniversary of my ordination. So I was ordained in what was then my home church to serve another church. But the service was at my home church 10 years ago on April 10th. And as I was ordained and sort of thinking about this path I'd set myself on, I was taking another big step upon, I never would have imagined this situation where I'm here preaching to a phone with kind of a faithful skeleton crew here with me. Spoiler, it's not even Sunday. Like, it's Saturday. I mean, it's Sunday for you. It's Saturday for us. And so everything has to happen a day early, which, frankly, has thrown me off and thrown others off as well, I imagine. But during this Easter, we continue to watch as we and as people around us have to improvise on how we can continue to do our jobs when everything around us is changing. And then for some of us, we are mourning losses. Some of us have lost our jobs. Some of us are fearing losing loved ones. And we're having to adjust to these things that keep happening, rapid fire. If we turn on the news and we look at what's going on, we see infection rates and death rates and maps with red dots in them that proliferate. And this is the week that things have begun to be more personal. Like later on when I share joys and concerns, a few of our concerns have to do with COVID-19. And there are now people that I know, and people who are close to people that I know, who are being affected by it, who are even being hospitalized. Some have even died. And then every few days, relentlessly, like almost like clockwork now, every few days there's a press conference and the whole world changes. And we all scramble to adapt again. And so we wonder, what to hope for. Well, even the things we hope for, the horizon of that hope keeps being pushed back. This past week, we found out that Springford School District is going to remain closed through the rest of the school year. And I still remember previously talking with Pam, do you think school's going to start up again in April? Or maybe it's going to start again in May. What's going to happen? And so we've had to adjust to suddenly finding out, okay, we have another 7 or 8 weeks of being homeschool teachers. And all the other parents of the thousands of kids in our school district are finding out the same thing. And so now the question isn't what is April or May going to look like. Now the question is, what is September going to look like? What is it going to look like in 14 months? Are we going to have a vaccine? In 18 months, are we going to have a large number of people vaccinated? What we're hoping for keeps being pushed farther into the distance. Churches are looking for hope right now, and some of them are trying to find that hope by gathering together on Easter, as if nothing was going on. Either ignoring or defying stay-at-home orders in their states, ignoring the advice of the most knowledgeable experts who are unanimous in their calls for us to stay home, to socially distance ourselves, to limit contact. Tens of thousands of people, maybe hundreds of thousands of people, are going to pile into churches and celebrate Easter together. As if God won't hear them if they don't come into a church, or as if they don't do it the way they used to, Jesus won't show up and Easter won't happen. These things that are happening around us are, in one sense, unprecedented. Certainly in my lifetime. In the lifetimes of many people I talk to. This has not happened before to us. That being said, the things we're going through, as is almost always the case, parallel Scripture. These aren't the first times these things have happened to people of faith, by a long shot. It's just the first time they've happened to us. When we look into the story from Matthew today, we see that the people in that story are also looking for hope. They're looking for meaning, and they don't know how far out the horizon of that hope has been pushed. The men who are following Jesus are hiding in an upper room, waiting for the Passover crowds to leave, waiting for the heat from the police to die down, so they can presumably flee the city and go into hiding, return to their previous lives, try to get their previous jobs as fishermen and tax collectors back. The women who had been following Jesus, we see two Marys mentioned in the Matthew text, have left in the cool of the morning, probably while it's still dark, and they're heading out to Jesus' borrowed tomb. And they're hoping they will be able to pay their respects, possibly anoint his body and care for it. And everyone's eyes are down. They're looking immediately around them for where their hope is going to come from. They're not looking very far out. The way that it is for us, I think, is very similar. I haven't started looking far ahead yet. I mostly deal with the next couple of days at most, because I've learned over the past 2 months that every few days things are going to change and we're going to have to adapt. In both cases, we're looking down to our immediate surroundings, trying to find hope. And in Scripture, these people who were once Jesus' followers are looking for hope, and all they're finding is fear and despair and defeat. The best Jesus' male disciples are going to hope for is a safe escape from the city. The best his female disciples are hoping for is to find his tomb undisturbed. And that's as far as their hope reaches. Of course, I don't know what the world is going to look like in a month, or in 6 months, or in a year, or in 18 months. I don't think anyone does. I've said this before, and I'll keep saying it. My own fervent hope is that we change. My fervent hope is that we don't return to normal. I hope that over the course of these unprecedented events, we learn. I hope that we grow a little bit more wise. I hope we better learn what we should actually value. I hope that we find a way to live more lightly on the earth. To give more and take less. To grow more and consume less. To care more and fight less. To share more and hoard less. But still, me looking for hope in this way is still looking down. Looking only as far ahead as I can see, only as far ahead as I can imagine. And I don't think that's going to work much better than it worked for Jesus' disciples in the aftermath of his death, as they were looking for hope. Because what's at issue is not what the future holds. What's at issue is who holds the future. Who shapes that future? Who promises to be with us in the midst of that future, whatever happens? I'm embarrassed to admit that once again this year, I put significant time and thought and effort into thinking, how can we provide Easter? Maybe not explicitly in that way, but that was shaping my thinking as we're planning for this service. How can we provide Easter? And I do this pretty much every year. And always at some point it strikes me how foolish and ridiculous that impulse is. Because we receive Easter. We receive it. We cannot possibly provide it. God raised Christ from the dead. We couldn't do that. Heck, we killed him. God raises us from death. We can't raise ourselves. There's nothing we can do to accomplish that. There's no goodness we can show. There's no effort we can put forth. In the story from Matthew, Jesus reminds the Marys what the angel had said. That he is going ahead of them. He says, go back and tell my disciples that I am alive. My tomb is empty. Not only that, but I'm going ahead of them into Galilee. And if you want to find me, that is where I will be. Out ahead of you in the world. That's true when we are in quarantine. That's true when we are in hiding. That's true when we are out looking for a grave and an opportunity to grieve in quiet. Our hope lies in what is above, not in what is below. And when we go looking for Christ, we always need to look ahead of us and not behind. And to keep our eyes on that Easter hope. It's a bit of a cliche, and I don't do it very often, but I'm going to end this sermon with a poem. It's a classic preacher move, but it's a poem I really like, and it's appropriate for Easter. It's by Cummings, and if you also like him as a poet, you will know that the challenge before me is how to read an Cummings poem aloud. It's not easy, but I think you'll still like it. I thank you, God, for most of this amazing day, for the leaping greenly spirits of trees and a blue true dream of sky, and for everything which is natural, which is infinite, which is yes. I, who have died, am alive again today. And this is the sun's birthday. This is the birthday of life and of love and wings. And the gay, great, happening, illimitably earth. How should tasting, touching, hearing, seeing, breathing, any lifted from the know of all nothing, human merely being, doubt, unimaginable you? Now the ears of my ears awake, and now the eyes of my eyes are opened. Now may the eyes of our eyes open. May the ears of our ears awake to all the Easter hope that is above us and that lies ahead of us and that is out there in the world, even as Christ is. Amen.